If you study the sky in a planetarium, you can be pretty certain that any of your questions can be answered. But if you observe the real night sky, there is a chance that you may see something moving that you don't recognize. A UFO, an unidentified flying object. And for the untrained observer, it is easy to be fooled, and there's usually some simple explanation. But as you've just seen, even for people who are used to watching the sky, there are some things that defy explanation. I think that many people are fascinated by the possibility that UFOs might be spacecraft piloted by intelligent beings. In my case, it's a curiosity that's existed for more than 30 years. But the real question is there any validity to the UFO experience? Anything beyond just our wishful thinking? About 90% of the objects that are reported as UFOs are explainable. Usually they turn out to be celestial bodies or military and civilian aircraft, and a certain number of them are hoaxes, like this one and this one. To the skeptics, 35 years of investigations have failed to turn up any evidence that UFOs really exist. One of the leading critics is aviation writer Philip Klass.
We've had tens of thousands of UFO reports, yet there is not a single photograph of an extraordinary craft-like object that cannot be explained as a hoax or in other prosaic terms. There is not a single physical artifact, not a residue, that would say something extraordinary is underway.
Then are UFOs just part of our modern mythology, reflected in Hollywood films?
All through history, mankind has always looked to the skies for help. In times of tension, they've always looked to the skies, and today, when we have the the fear of nuclear holocaust, of overpopulation, of pollution, of the energy crisis, my gosh, what's more natural for the people than to say, wouldn't it be nice if some intelligences could come in from above and help us out with all this stuff?
Astronomer Alan Hynek has been studying UFOs for over 30 years now, and he's convinced that there's nothing fictional about them.
Starting as a complete skeptic, I underwent a transformation, and now I've simply, I guess the best way of saying it is it's an itch that I just have to scratch. It's there, and I feel that we have a phenomenon that is, could be of tremendous potential importance to the human race. I feel that strongly about it.
So who is right, the believer or the skeptic? In a moment, we'll look at the evidence for some answers. An unidentified flying object, that's what people reported seeing on March of 1982, circling the sky over San Francisco.
At least a half dozen people say they saw a UFO near the Golden Gate Bridge this morning. A cluster of lights was first spotted by one commuter crossing the bridge just after 6 a.m.
It looked neon, and it was just kind of hovering, and it looked like a big white wing, to me.
Each year, hundreds of people claim to see UFOs. Most are eventually identified. This particular object turned out to be an advertising plane, which is frequently mistaken for a UFO. When people do see things in the sky that mystify them, who can they turn to? Publicly, government agencies claim no interest in UFO sightings. This leaves a few small private organizations the task of investigating the literally hundreds of UFO sightings every year. These organizations are small and have tiny budgets and are staffed by volunteers who must investigate these eyewitness reports in their spare time. Tom Page is a high school astronomy teacher in Northern California. On weekends and whenever time allows, he's a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network, one of the largest groups in the country. One of his more recent cases involves a young pilot from Novato, California. Shannon Davis is a flight instructor who has logged over 3,000 hours in the air, 600 of those at night. His sighting on the night of November 5th, 1980 is typical of the 5 to 10% that remain unidentified.
I noticed the light off of my left wing at about the 7 o'clock position of the airplane. And because I was in radar contact with Oakland Center, because of the IFR flight, I asked them how close that aircraft was from us, and they said that they didn't show anything on radar out there. Then I noticed that it pulled up alongside my left wing. It was a bullet shape, rounded at the front, that widened out and then tapered to a point at the end. But one of the things I really wondered about it is around the main body, the center, but just past the nose, there was a ring spinning around it. And it did a couple of things simultaneously. What happened is the pulsation quickened up on the nose, and the whole thing went to a very bright color. At the same time, the ring seemed to spin faster till that whole ring disappeared, and within a matter of seconds, the brightness of the object appeared to be just like a glowing bright fireball. And I kind of jumped because at first I was thinking it was some kind of missile that was detonating, and the thing took off forward, and it shot out to forward of the nose. I estimated about 2 or 3 miles ahead of the aircraft, and it made an instantaneous 90-degree right-angle turn, and it went vertical until it went up out of sight. And I sat there looking at it, and I didn't know what to think.
5 minutes later, Shannon saw the object again, and it repeated the same pattern. Only this time, 2 pilots flying in the opposite direction also saw the UFO.
I have to, to the best of my knowledge, rule out any kind of meteor or shooting star, because I don't know if any meteor that will come alongside, pace you, and then take off forward and go vertical. Okay? Any kind of spacecraft or military aircraft, technically that was defying all physical laws by making an instantaneous 90-degree turn. According to laws of physics, that can't be done. And, you know, I watched it do it twice.
The first step in any UFO investigation is to check out witness credibility. In this particular case, it was easy since Tom already knew Shannon.
I first met Shannon Davis as a student in one of my classes. As far as the credibility of the witness in this case, I feel that this particular individual is telling the truth. I think he's a very truthful individual. He had no reason to lie. And at the time, he didn't want any publicity. Now he said that he would be willing to make this public just for scientific information.
But one witness does not make a strong case, so Tom tried to locate the other 2 pilots.
There's a possibility in this particular setting that there were 2 other witnesses, 2 pilots who saw something come out of an overcast above Shannon. I do not know what airline they were from, and Shannon didn't either, and we're unable to contact them.
And what about radar? During the encounter, Shannon radioed Oakland Center Flight Facility, but their response was negative.
If a pilot would have informed us that he had a sighting of a UFO in close proximity, we would not be able to distinguish between he and that UFO. It would be all one target to us.
Could the object have been man-made or a natural phenomenon?
None of those things could do the things that this particular object did, moving forward at a high speed, making a right-angle turn. Possibly a military aircraft could, but the military certainly wouldn't be telling us about it.
The case closed. This is how the evidence stood. Was the main witness credible? Yes. Were other eyewitnesses contacted to support the story? No. Was the object tracked on radar? No. Could the object have been man-made or some celestial body? Inconclusive.
That's the problem we have, is that we're basing the whole UFO study on the report of witnesses, and we have to just determine whether these witnesses are telling the truth or not.
Shannon believes he saw something extraordinary, and Page agrees with him. But to the doubters, without hard evidence, they're inclined toward a more conventional explanation.
There are dozens, simply dozens of things to be seen in the night skies. And I say to any of your viewers, if they will go out tonight, if it's a clear night, and spend 3 hours looking at the night skies, I can almost guarantee them they will see something that will surprise them, something unusual.
But ufologists like Page argue that the problem is not the validity of the eyewitness accounts, but the lack of professionally trained, full-time people to investigate cases like Shannon's.
Look, we wouldn't have gone to the moon if we'd had to depend on people who could work only on weekends and without salary as a hobby. What we need in ufology is to make it professional.
Not all UFO investigators are amateurs. There are professionals, and many with scientific backgrounds, who are conducting diligent studies. Their efforts have brought UFO research out of the realm of fantasy into a brighter, more realistic light. In the last 40 years, technology has moved us from an earthbound existence straight into the outer reaches of space. And now that technological know-how is being used to try and unravel the UFO mystery. John Schuessler is a mechanical engineer for McDonnell Douglas and NASA. Here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Schuessler has worked on several space programs, including Skylab and the Space Shuttle. Schuessler's lifelong interest in UFOs prompted him to bring together other interested aerospace workers and form a group called VISIT.
Our project VISIT is a very unique organization in that our acronym stands for Vehicle Internal Systems Investigative Team. And by that we mean that UFOs, if they exist, must have internal systems, as do our spacecraft, such as the Space Shuttle.
Hey, Terry, take a look at these 4 targets. They've been in this approximate area for over an hour. I've never seen anything like it. They hover for a while and then jump to another location. They moved 5 miles in one update several minutes ago. That's over 3,000 miles an hour.
Have you checked with the military to see if they have anything going out there?
Yeah, and they don't have any scheduled activity tonight, and a weather balloon couldn't begin to do that.
Well, try broadcasting in the blind and see if you get any reply.
This is Magoo Approach Control. Any aircraft within 10 nautical miles of Oxnard Field, identify yourself. I repeat, identify yourself.
There's Pacific 618. Ask him if he sees anything.
Pacific 618, this is Magoo Approach. Traffic at 10 o'clock. Close proximity. Do you see anything?
Roger, Magoo.
Pacific 618 has 2 bright lights, 9 and 10 o'clock position, about 2 miles. Do you show 2 targets?
Pacific 618, this is Magoo Approach. We're painting only 1 target now.
Just a second. It seems to be jumping around at tremendous speeds.
There it goes.
Look at that thing go. What do you make of that?
You got me. Could be military. There it is again. Better contact LA Approach.
LA Approach, this is Pacific Flight 618, 4 miles northwest of Malibu.
Roger, Pacific. This is Los Angeles Approach Control.
We've got a large white light directly ahead of us.
Estimated range about a mile. Maintaining the separation, and it's playing some strange games with us. Do you show any traffic?
We show nothing on radar anywhere near you.
Impossible.
There it goes again. That can't be a plane.
LA Approach, Pacific 618. Did you just see that?
I've told you, we have nothing, and you have nothing.
Better contact Magoo again.
What you've seen is a reenactment of an incident that took place 5 years ago. To this day, it remains unexplained. These people have joined the ranks of hundreds of others who have also experienced one of the most controversial mysteries of our times, UFOs.
What?